Good afternoon and welcome back to the latest edition of our entertainment show as we look at upcoming TV series and movies debuting here in Ireland and the UK in the upcoming months. And one of the blockbuster TV series that has been through our TV screens for the last number of years, it's coming back after much appeal. It's coming back for a season 5 here in Ireland and the UK. It's the one and only Lucifer. The excitement is growing. It's debuting in 3 days' time. Season 5 will come on air. And we're delighted to be joined by one of the stars of the show. Obviously, Lucifer, we have had 80 episodes so far. And this actor has appeared in 77 of those episodes. So a regular cast member, a founding stone of Lucifer so far. The one and only D.B. Woodside, who plays the character Amenadiel, who is the actual brother of Lucifer, Morningstar, played by Tom Ellis. DB, I know in terms of Lucifer, it's been a roller coaster ride in terms of being off, being on, being back on, the overwhelming support from the fans. At times, did you think you would ever see a season 5?
Oh my God, no, not at all. I remember when we got canceled after season 3, we were at a little party, and we were talking to one of the executives over the show, and we asked him point blank if there is any chance that this show could have a life somewhere else, and he said no. Yeah, he said no. He's like, I'm positive. And then there you go, right? We get picked up by Netflix for season 4, and I definitely think that once we landed on a home like Netflix, a place that we can call home, that the show just really, I think, took off even more. So no, it's been a roller coaster. The journey of this show has been intense, unpredictable, but really fulfilling.
And I suppose, DB, as an actor, I know you've been involved in many projects in terms of movies, in terms of TV series. Have you ever seen a sort of a cult following that this sort of show, this sort of fan base has in terms of Lucifer? I mean, they must be one of the most sort of loyal sort of fan bases in terms of it has such sort of a unique sort of audience that in terms of their love for the sort of TV sort of series as well. You must feel that sort of connection when you're on set shooting for the episodes to say, wow, the people that we're doing this for really care about this show.
Yeah, we do, and it's first of all, it's an international cast, right? So it has international appeal, which has been fantastic. But the love that the fans have shown us has been absolutely incredible. And I say this all the time, but if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Nothing that we did got the show back on, right? It was everything that they did. It was people tweeting, people writing letters, people organizing, and it was simply because of their strong will. And that they made sure that we were going to stick around for a while. So we owe everything to the fans, everything to them, because they just showed us so much love. And I think once we all saw that, we felt a specific kind of loyalty to them to really make the show the best that it could be. So, I've been around for a while. I think the Buffy fans are great. I think the 24 fans are great. But the Lucifer fans, like I said, it's been overwhelming to feel their support and their love. It's been absolutely incredible.
I suppose, DB, one thing looking at this in terms of doing my research, I think it's 5 to 6 years now in terms of from how long you've been working on this project or how long you've been involved in Lucifer. What struck me was strange is that the main core of the cast normally after 2 or 3 seasons, one person might move on, or one person's killed off, or they might move on to different sort of projects or different sort of contracts. But the Tom Ellis, yourself, Leslie Ann Brandt, Laura German, you've all been there from day one. It's very unique that sort of, you look at the 5 main sort of characters that started off in season 1, probably the first 2 or 3 sort of episodes, and then to come on in season 5 to see them all really still there and still very sort of prominent. No one has sort of departed off in different sort of ventures or different sort of projects, that the core cast. And is that, do you think that's been a great secret recipe to your success as well, that you've been able to keep that established main sort of core there the whole time?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, this was a show where we filmed the pilot here in Los Angeles, and then when we heard that we got the pickup, they shipped us to Vancouver. And I love Vancouver. I love Canada. I've said this so many times, but I think the fact that all of us were away from home, you know, in this unnatural way, forced us all to be together. And what was beautiful about it is we all got to know each other. We all got to know each other outside of anything that we considered home, outside of any comfort that we may associate with home. We were all on the road, if you will. And I think when you're on the road like that, all you have is each other. And so we would have a lot of dinners, we would go out, we would hang out, we would talk, and it just allowed us to get close. And then I think coming back to LA for the 3rd season and then it being canceled, it allowed us to get even closer. No one wanted to leave this show. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where I think when you know you have something good, you want to hold on to it as long as possible, especially in this business when, you know, to be honest, the majority of jobs are not like this. I'm not trying to say that the majority of jobs are bad, but, you know, the majority of jobs just you don't have this type of closeness, this type of intimacy, this type of friendship. So I think everyone felt and knew that we had something special, and we wanted to try and ride that wave for as long as humanly possible.
And I suppose, DB, in terms of Lucifer, I know we have the sci-fi genre is so big and it's so sort of defined a niche in terms of that is difficult enough. And when you've got so many sci-fi sort of elements that are so sort of similar, you look at the big success, say, for example, of Supernatural that's going on for 13, 14 seasons now. That would be a more sci-fi but more serious. But you found the mix between sci-fi and comedy in certain instances. It's sci-fi, but it's not too over the top in terms of its seriousness as well, that you can see the fiction rubbing off in terms of Lucifer, that sort of element that you could say, right, it's sort of mellow sort of sci-fi. Is that a fair sort of reflection?
I think so. It's more, yeah, definitely sci-fi, but also I think fantastical, you know, fantasy, and it definitely has its dramatic moments and comedic moments. It's a strange little mix, right? Because most of those genres, when you jam them together like that, they don't work. I think another show that was really successful that did that was, in fact, Buffy. And so I do think a lot of our Lucifer fans are also fans of Buffy. It's a very unique type of genre to kind of push all that together. I think it's really hard. I think we were really fortunate to have the writers that we had, who really got the temperature and tone of the show. I think it might have taken us, the actors, some time to try and find that balance. I know that I tend to be someone that's a wee bit more intense than other members of my cast. So I think the comedy was sometimes a little challenging for me, but Conversely, I think other members in the cast would say the seriousness at times was a little challenging for them. So I just think they got together a great group of people and played to so many of our strengths, and those of us that weren't strong in certain areas. I think other members of the cast uplifted us and challenged us to be the best versions of ourselves in all of those genres. But yeah, it's a really interesting show in how they managed to squeeze all of that in.
I suppose, DV, I'll have to bring you on now to season 5, and that's what we're discussing here. And for our audience and our listeners tuning in that have probably seen the first few seasons of Lucifer, they're anxiously sort of waiting to say how do they go about making it sort of fresh in season 5, how they go about making taking different twists or different angles on it without revealing giving too much away. Do you think season 5 is sort of different than sort of previous seasons? Have you gone down sort of different routes or different avenues to explore to try and sort of make it fresh in terms of that sort of thing? Because after a few seasons of a certain show, things can become very repetitive in terms of storylines as well. In terms of season 5, was that a sort of challenge, you think, for the writers and actors to try and keep that freshness in it?
I actually think that season 5, strangely enough, was perhaps easier for us to jump into. I think season 4 was definitely a challenge, which it paid off. But I think season 5, because when we started season 5, we were told it was going to be our last season. Okay. So I think when you know beforehand, you're kind of going in, and I think it really helped the writers create and carve stories so that we were going to finish a lot of arcs that we had started. I think as actors, we had some time to kind of grieve the loss of the show, wrapping up, which is always a hard thing to do for an actor. Even when you're in successful shows, whenever it's coming to an end, even if it's coming to an end on your terms, it's still sad, right? Because you're a family and you've got to know these people. But I think that season 5 was in some ways easier for the writers because they had targets that they wanted to hit, and they had time to figure out how they were going to hit that. I think season 6, if I were to say this, to speak for the writers, which I can't, but I think that season probably was a little bit more challenging for them during the off season because we didn't find out that we were coming back for season 6. I think we were out maybe 1 month out from finishing season 5. So all of a sudden, the very end of season 5, some things had to change. We had to leave some things open. So we had a reason to come back for season 6. So I do think people are going to feel very satisfied with season 5. I think we really wrapped some things up in amazing ways. And I do, I've gone on record to say this, perhaps sometimes I say too much, this is true. But I do think at the end of season 5, there are things that happen, events that happen, which are going to break people's hearts wide open.
Okay. And I suppose time is nearly catching up on us, DB, in terms of the time we have for you this evening. But I suppose it would be amiss for me not to mention your own character, Amenadiel, in terms of season 5. Maybe for a quick sort of minute, what sort of ups and downs and sort of roller coasters does he go through in season 5?
I think in season 5, like we saw in 5A, that he's really trying to come to grips with what kind of father he wants to be. And I think that's something that's really challenging for him. And so I think season 5 for him is about really trying to embrace his humanity on Earth a little bit tighter so that he can understand his son, so he can be a better father to his son. And just so he can be a better, I was about to say human being, but he's not human, but a better entity, right? someone who's loyal, someone who's honest. But I think his journey in season 5 is really to embrace humanity more, simply so he can be a better father to his son.
And now, DB Woodside, for the final 30 seconds, we'll turn it over to your character, Amenadiel, and he might enlighten all our Irish audience and listeners why they should tune in on mass the 28th of May. Remember, that's only 3 days' time to watch Lucifer on season 5 on channel Netflix here in Ireland and the UK. Over to you, Amenadiel. 30 seconds.
I think what I would simply say to people is, this is like any family that, all of us have families, and most of us come from a somewhat dysfunctional family, right? We don't necessarily like to lead with that, but all of us have challenges. And this clan of people, they have challenges, but they're a family. They always manage to make it work. They always come together. And I think anyone everywhere can identify with each of these characters, the way they love, the way they fall, the way they succeed, and the way they pick themselves back up and continue on. I think after this year, most of us can say we've gone through some things that we thought we would never go through with this pandemic. We're coming out the other side of it now, but hopefully we're coming out of it with some really valuable life lessons. And I think there are some lessons in Lucifer that all of us can embrace, and also, have a laugh or two as we come out of this really dark time.
On that note, DB Woodside, an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening. To hear about season 5 of Lucifer coming back to our TV screens the 28th of May in channel Netflix. DB Woodside plays the character Amenadiel, and I suppose, DB, to let you go now, and I suppose we look delightfully in maybe 6 or 7 months' time to hopefully get you back and hopefully speak about season 6 again. But for the moment, DB Woodside, take care, and 3 days' time, Lucifer on our TV screens on channel Netflix, 28th of May, season 5. Don't miss it.